speaking of Twitter, what do you make of Elon Musk? What do you make of his pledge for freedom of speech? What do you make of his also, he's got his own vested interests in all sorts of different things, and he's a corporate guy, and he's a businessman at the end of the day with the business of making lithium batteries and putting things in space. What do you make of this whole Twitter phenomenon?
Well, so first of all, I think what Elon did with Twitter is brilliant because of his cold, calculating, probably Asperger's aided indifference to give a shit, which I think is brilliant. And I think at some point, freedom of speech requires that kind of tenacity and that level of indifference. And I think what he's done there is absolutely brilliant. And I salute what he's done as probably one of the best moves tactically that I've ever seen him make. I think it's brilliant. And I think that he has turned Twitter into something that nobody thought it could be. If you go back to look at where Twitter was pre-Trump, on the verge of bankruptcy, and people forget that Trump made Twitter, not the other way around, right? And a lot of the left sits there going, well, we don't like what Elon's doing with Twitter. I'm like, okay, well, Twitter exists because of Trump. That's the only reason Twitter exists, because they were going to be a non-existent platform until Trump got a phone in his hand, and then, all hell broke loose. But the great news about where Twitter is they're actually showing us a pathway towards what the future media is. When Tucker can move from Fox to Twitter and increase his viewership, that tells you that broadcast media is dead. And the patronage of broadcast media in the form of pharma is also dead. So I think what Elon's doing time-wise in the arc of this narrative is phenomenal, because what he's done is he's emasculating the networks. And now comically, if you want to go for live news, you go into Twitter Spaces and you go into, Twitter videos and you do live streams on Twitter. And all of a sudden, Twitter has become what YouTube never could do, because YouTube was still an entertainment platform, not a news platform. And now that Tucker's over there, now that Elon's doing interviews, now that they're doing interviews with Bobby Kennedy on there, I mean, they're playing this as good as it can be played. And I think they're brilliantly flanking all of the major networks. Fox is trying to stay relevant, but they're losing ground every day. But losing to a bunch of other losers is not necessarily a winning proposition. With respect to Elon, I've had a number of interactions with people in his immediate orbit, including former, roommates in college and early business partners and so forth. I have not had the privilege of having direct interaction with him, but I will tell you that the universal story about Elon that I've heard from everybody, and I think the evidence of it is pretty self-evident, is Elon is very much given to the what can be done. And I think his indifference towards being emotionally attached to either outcomes or reputation is an extremely rare executive talent in any circumstance. And growing up in the capital markets, and from business, that to have a leader who is not managing for the quarterly performance bonus is actually a true leader. Whether you like him or not, doesn't matter. Somebody who has the audacity and the courage to say, I'm going to make the right decision for me, and I'm going to get you to go along with it, is a real leader. And so what I'm seeing in his behavior across all of the actions that he's doing is actually something that I find remarkably refreshing in a leader, which is consistency. I've said many times in the 80s, when I started working with congressional and Senate investigations and testimonies, I didn't have to agree with your ideology if I knew I could count on your integrity. Right? If I knew that I could count on who you are, I could disagree with you on almost everything, and we would still go out and have dinner afterwards. Because the fellowship of integrity is something I don't have to agree with you. I just appreciate that I know who you are, where you're coming from, and I know what your position is going to be. That's amazing. I've often compared people like Sam Nunn, a senator with whom I worked, who I had a huge amount of respect, or Chuck Grassley, another guy ideologically, there's a lot about what Chuck does and doesn't believe that I can't have much time for. But what I can tell you is everything I did with Chuck Grassley was a situation where he was a man of his word. I knew who he was, what he was. I knew that I could count on him to deliver what I expect from him. And that's a leader. We don't have many leaders anymore, Brian. And so what I see in Elon is somebody who has the courage, the audacity, and the tenacity to lead and model leadership in a way that is all too rare. And I believe, because I'm of that fundamental wiring, that agreement is not required to actually work with a constructive leader. You don't have to agree on everything. What you have to do is know how to manage inside of a world in which you may have ideological or philosophical disagreements. That doesn't mean you can't work together. And I think what Elon's doing right now is for, in fact, the greater good. And the fact that he's standing up for freedom of speech, for me, as a rather verbose person, is probably something I value disproportionately highly.
It's been fun to watch. I've never used his Twitter as much as my entire life. And you make a great point about Trump making this relevant. I have an academy, and I used to teach my students about social media, and I always had to tell them what platforms to use. Yeah. And traditionally it had been 5 platforms. You probably guess what they were. It was Facebook, yeah, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. And I always used to say, Twitter's hanging on. And I remember back in the day saying the president's using it, so it still has life. But it was barely hanging on at that point. Yep. And it's a great point that you made. Then they threw him off. And now I go there regularly because, like you said, it is now the news, and YouTube was never going to be that. And YouTube still has its own censorship issues, although they are less, but that could also be temporary. So Jim Rickards has just recorded a video that's not available to anyone in the public, and he's going to be talking about how this upcoming recession is going to be fast, it's going to be bloody, it's going to be nasty. But at the same time, he's going to show you how you can position yourself to profit from all of this chaos. Now, we've made this video only available to our viewers. Go to londonreal.tv/Jim. Watch that immediately. I can't say enough good things about Jim Rickards. He understands the global economic system better than any guest I've ever had on London Real. His predictions are almost uncannily true, and you can learn how to profit from his vision, from his expertise, and his understanding of economics. So go to londonreal.tv/Jim or click the link below. It's an excellent, excellent look on what's going to happen in the future and how you can position yourself to profit from that. Jim is one of the best in the business, one of my favorite guests on London Real, and he's very, very good at predicting the future and showing us all to profit from it. So click the link, and I hope you enjoy. Hey, do you want to profit from crypto? Then join my DeFi Academy. The Crypto DeFi Academy will help you create generational wealth. But don't take my word for it. Listen to my students.
When I first got into crypto, I remember thinking to myself, I need to learn more. Brian Rose, learning crypto, learning DeFi, got to do it.
I am so grateful that I jumped in and did this. I had to break through some limiting beliefs that I can do this, that I can afford this, that I can be in this.
It challenges the things that are deeply rooted within us.
Joining DeFi Academy has been one of the best decisions I have made on my blockchain journey.
This course was a life changer, a game changer, a huge eye-opener, coming from knowing practically nothing at the speed of the learning over 4 weeks was just fantastic.
The information you provided in this class was invaluable.
I feel far more confident in my next steps.
We took complex concepts and made them easier to understand.
What's different than so many other ones is it just doesn't tell you what to do. It actually makes you do it.
This is for people who are serious about becoming traders. This is the way it should be done.
I realized from this learning experience again that it is not about what you learn, but about who you learn it from.
The energy was insane. I've never experienced such incredible energy on a live call. Brian Rose, you are a legend, my friend.
It's the only thing in the market where you can get all information and learn everything what you need to know.
Everything is so clear and so well done, and I am just forever grateful for this program.
It made me feel so much more confident about crypto than I did before.
I did not anticipate how passionate I was going to become about it.
It's also been like a big learning experience for me, not just in the crypto space, but just an overall balance of life.
What I've learned is, how to take ownership, of my life in a way that I really hadn't before.
Yeah, you can't put a price on that, really.
I would recommend it to anybody, top notch.
Excellence does not come cheap. So if you want excellence, you gotta pay for it, but it's so worth it.
Pull the trigger. That's what this course is about.
You're not going to regret it, really. It's amazing.
Thank you, Brian and team.
So what are you waiting for? Crypto is happening now. Click the link below, submit your application, and let me mentor you on how to create generational wealth and build the decentralized financial infrastructure of the future.